Hello everyone, it's MSF P13 here, and welcome to today's video. Today's video, I am carrying on explaining the raid ranks of some of the characters in the game with another trait. Today's trait is Controller. So I'm going to break it down in a few groups here and there, and just get through it as fast as possible and explain how these characters all perform in raids. So to start off, I'm actually going to do a group of 3 here. I'm going to try and do groups of 3 up until it gets a little more to the top characters in the game, and it'll change a little. So let's start off with Aim Infector. The main issue with this character is, well, basically his entire kit. Decent speed, but that's really all he has. He's not a very good character. Debuffs himself, and he's most effective when he's completely debuffed, but then he's also the worst. So, not a great character. I think that's going to reflect very obviously in his raid ranks. Next off, we have Hand Assassin. Alright, speed, not the best. You can see it right here at 109, so it's good speed. Some decent damage, but that's all there really is to it. Next, we have Ronin. Go back a little bit of time, and he was horrible. But since his buff, he's a much better character. He's faster now. He's still slow. He's not very fast. Much higher resistance. He has a summon, which is good, and he has a cleanse, which is huge for raids. Bit of AoE damage, and dispel, which is really good. Clearly, Ronin is the best here, but how does this really reflect on all these characters in raids? Okay, so here you can see I have Aim Infector as a basic no, worst tier in the game, and Assassin as a step up, or a few steps up at basic Y, which means you really shouldn't use her, and Ronin is a basic yes. Ironically, they're all basics, but why is this? Ronin just has more versatility in his kit, even though he's the slowest of them. He does have Cleanse, which is massively huge in raids, and it's also the reason that Groot can be so effective in raids. The other 2 characters, the Hand Assassin actually provides some damage, and Aim Infector doesn't really provide anything in raids. But now let's, if we count synergy, it changes up just a little. We have Ronin has moved all the way up to an ultimate yes, because you put him on a full Kree team, he is huge for that Kree team, and he's really what makes that team work, as he is adding heals and speed bar. It's really, really good. Hand Assassin and Aim Infector both do not move because their synergy does not improve them in any way, shape, or form. Now for a suicide team, Ronin takes a step back. He is an ultimate why not. Hand Assassin joins Aim Infector in the worst tier of basic no. They're just not good for fast damage. Ronin can count because he has a few things he can do. You could save up his ultimate from a previous node and start off with a turn 1 ultimate with ability block, which is great. He can summon, and that adds a lot of damage, and he can dispel. So there's a lot of things you can do with Ronin on a suicide team. His main fallback is he's not quite fast enough. Okay, we have another group of 3 here. Very different characters, but I kind of like doing it this way. First off, we have Nobu. Nobu's main issue is his ultimate is just a huge cooldown, and he's not very fast. Too much ability energy for it, so it doesn't really provide value, and in a raid, it's not the best ultimate anyways. His summon is pretty good, but other than that, that's all he really seems to provide, and some casual revives, which are nice, but just not a lot in his kit to really make him a good raid character. Now we have Mantis, probably the most I don't really have a term, but just poor Mantis. That's all I can say. She came out and she looked like the best raid character possibly imaginable. We were all so excited. It was a huge step up on Night Nurse, but then followed right after her was a character that basically surpassed her in every way, making her forgotten and kind of redundant, even though she was someone that we wanted for a long time and fit exactly what we were looking for and is a great character. She's okay speed, literally the most average speed in the game with 100, I believe. Can have a first turn stun. Her special is a great heal. Her ultimate is a nice little 1-person heal, and it also has a chance of dispel. That's pretty much all there is to her kit, but she's a really solid healer. And she's also a controller, which is nice, so she doesn't get targeted out in raids as much, so she's easier to survive with. Now we have Jessica Jones. On her own, she can provide some energy, has some really good focus for a pretty nice dispel, but the cooldown on that's decently high, so it's not like you're going to use it a lot. But she also has a cleanse, which is good for raids. So how does this all translate? Nobu is the most underwhelming as an ultimate Y, and Jessica Jones is a bit better, actually a fair bit better as an ultimate why not. That really comes down to her cleanse, which is really helpful, and the occasional dispel can be very useful, and she does some decent power or damage, so she's a much better character than Nobu. Nobu doesn't provide enough, even with his summons in a raid. But then the best of these characters is Mantis. She is a special yes, because she's a very good healer. I'd honestly say she's the second best healer in the game for just general teams. Just kind of got outshined right after her, which is really sad. Like, if we had her from the beginning, she probably would have been the #1 choice over Night Nurse for a long time, but it just had to be bad timing. So now let's count synergy. What do we get here? Nobu doesn't really make any progress because there's not really a good synergy for him. Jessica Jones takes a small step up to a basic yes because she is a member of the Defenders and they are good in raids. Not higher because she's not the most vital part in a raid for the Defenders. I hope I said Defenders, but she's still very good. And the Defenders are not the very top team in the game for raids, but they're one of the better ones. So she's definitely a yes character for that. And finally, Mantis stays as a special yes because her synergy, she is good with it. But now with Minerva, she's kind of replaced, which is really tragic for her, but she's still a very good character. And if you have Mantis and not Minerva, she's very usable. Now when we count suicide teams, it gets a little different. Nobu takes a step back and is an ultimate no. He's not really a character you should use for a suicide team. Jessica Jones is an ultimate why she can be used, but she's not the best choice. There's just better characters to use. And same with Mantis. The first turn stun can be nice and some added survivability, but it's not really the best when you're trying to burn down a node quickly. Okay, let's go for another group of 3 here. First off, we start with kind of an interesting controller. Not really sure why Noble gets the controller tag. It's probably because her basic does have a dispel right here, but not much about her kit screams controller. Anyways, she does some decent damage and call some assists, and that's a 1-person cleanse. Her ultimate or her passive is basically clearing negative effects from her allies. So again, I'm not really sure how that is a controller, but anyway, she is a controller. Next we have Hawkeye, who is the original controller in the game. A decent basic. The special is a very good dispel, and it actually is splash damage dispel, which is pretty cool. The ultimate's some blind. He's a decently fast character. Kind of does a lot of things pretty well, nothing very, very well. Finally, we have Ant-Man. Like I said about Hawkeye, he does a lot of things pretty well, but nothing very, very well. Basic, he has a chance to copy some effects and steal effects. Nice ability block, which can be for 2 turns if you level it up high enough. And an AoE slow, which is pretty good. A small dodge chance and chance to assist. Pretty good controller all around. Very, I'd say, underrated because people kind of wished he was a really, really good character, but he's not. But he has a lot of uses that people seem to overlook. How does this really translate in raids? Well, just general, in a random team, Ant-Man is a special Y. His speed just isn't enough to really make him worth putting in there. And there are just slightly better controllers that do kind of what he does, just better. He's a jack of all trades, but not great for anything, and his damage is a little low. Hawkeye and Kree Noble are about at the same fate as a basic why not. They both have a little bit more in their kit. Kree Noble's dispel can be very huge, and some ability energy is nice, and the single target damage is pretty good, and Hawkeye has a lot that he can do. But there's just better characters to use, so if they're on their own, I wouldn't recommend using any of these characters in a raid. Now, when we get to synergy, Ant-Man takes a slight step up, but he's still just an ultimate Y, so you still shouldn't use him. Unfortunately, Hawkeye's synergy has kind of died down, as the Avengers are no longer an elite team in this game, so he kind of stays where he is. but Kree Noble takes a pretty big jump up to a basic yes, and she is a very good character to use in raids when you're using a full Kree team. And the Krees are pretty good in raids nowadays. Finally, we have Suicide. For one node, how do they work? Well, Hawkeye, he falls down quite a bit all the way to a special Y. He just doesn't provide enough damage to really be a character you want to bring out to take down one node. Ant-Man, same issue. He is an ultimate no. I believe Hawkeye is a special Y. I don't know if I said that, but neither of those characters provide enough damage to be used in this situation. However, Kree Noble does become an ultimate why not, a very good character to use, but there are better. But her assist, if you put her next to a good character, can be very helpful. Some good turn 1 damage to really take down one character, which can go a long way into basically blowing up one node in a raid. Okay, I'm going to do 3 more characters, but I'm actually going to skip one character in the middle to make it fit a little bit better. First off, we start with Mordo, who is the king of RNG. He's not very fast, but he can be amazing and he can be horrible. He's a pain in the butt to go against on raids because he has an ultimate heal block, which just messes everything up. He has a blind, which can go from blinding like nobody to blinding an entire team. And he gives random debuffs on his basic. He heals up on death, which is pretty cool, and also can get some ability energy from death. So he works pretty well in raids. He's a very good controller, but he can be a pain in the butt because RNG can go really bad with him. So it's a bit of a lottery ticket, as in a lot of things in this game, but he really embodies this the most, but I think he's a really good character. Next, we have Black Widow, for a long time considered the best character in the game. Why is that? Her special, Speed Up, is huge. She's a very fast character, and she speeds up the rest of your team. Her stun is really amazing, and it does a lot of damage, especially when it chains. She used to be hands down the best character in the game, and that was even in raids. However, she might have taken a step back just because the Avengers aren't as good and new characters just seem to be getting better and better. We're going to skip Storm for now, and we're going to move on to Quake, mainly because her fit with Black Widow. For the longest time, she was also one of the top 3 characters in the game, according to most people. That's because her basic does a slow. Many people considered it the best basic in the game. Slow is very good, especially when paired with Speed Up. Her special is an okay dispel, but there are better moves. Her ultimate does some really good damage and gives offense down. However, there's just better ultimates now. Again, another person that's just hurt by the passing of time in this game because their new characters tend to be better. So how does this really translate in raids? So you can see here the king of RNG and the old 2 queens of the meta. I just came up with that on the spot. Sorry if it was weird. Anyways, they all do pretty well on raids, even now if you throw them in on a random team. Mordo is an ultimate why not. Both Quake and Black Widow are a basic yes. They're all very usable characters and can definitely be used in raids. I'd still argue there are better characters to use, but on their own, they really are good to use. When you get into synergy, however, things change a little bit. Mordo stays right where he is as an ultimate why not. Quake also stays where she was as a basic yes. Black Widow takes a step up into special yes. But the main thing is a lot of characters take jumps here, and there's better teams to use than teams that include these characters. While they are definitely usable with synergy, I think there are better synergy teams to use than these characters. Now, when you count synergy, that's not what I'm meaning. Suicide node, it changes up a little. Mordo falls down just a tad to become special why not. He is very usable, but there are better characters to use in this situation. Black Widow and Quake go back to the original spot as a basic yes. Now, these characters are all very good in raids, they're very usable, but I would suggest building other characters because the newer characters just add a little bit more, and their teams as a whole are more effective, even though these characters do their parts very well. Okay, Storm. Storm is a character I want to talk about all on her own. First off, let's take a quick look here. She has some really nice speed. Her basic, it's okay damage, and then when she's charged, which will happen anytime she uses her basic, she gains a charge. It does some splash damage, which is great. Why she is so important is because she can stack a lot of charges, up to 20 when maxed out, and then you can unleash a special or an ultimate, which will clear all her charges, but her special will stun the entire other team, and the ultimate will likely kill the entire other team. But it depends on a long time of building her up. So she's a really unique character and a character you have to plan out. But a lot of people do that, and it really helps them on the hard raids. On her own, I have an ultimate why not. This is a bit misleading because really on her own, if you're just thinking she's going to carry a lot of weight in a raid, she really won't do that. But because of the potential of unleashing her ultimate and special, she's definitely someone you should consider using when you can in a raid. Now, if you count Synergy, which I basically feel is a team that you're really building in order to get her ready or like to charge her up or unleash her, she is a special yes. She's a very good character, and you're using it for one attack, but you build that up, and it's really going to make a big difference. And now Suicide, obviously she is an ultimate yes, because she is the only character that I can think of that can take down most of the nodes in the game when fully maxed out, of course, in one attack. And that is insane. I know it takes planning, but it's really worth planning this ahead of time. Storm's ultimate is what I tend to use, and it's incredible. Okay, I'm going to do 3 characters here, and I'm going to skip one on the way up. But first off, I start with Venom. Venom is not very fast, which is a big detriment to him, but he has good health pool and actually does some pretty good damage. He has a very interesting kit. He flips buffs into debuffs on his basic, which is really good because it's a dispel, but it doesn't only dispel, it gives bleed. It does a lot of damage. That's really cool. His special puts a lot of bleeds and ability block, which is amazing. His ultimate spreads all debuffs, so you can really mess up a team with Venom. The issue is he's just not very fast, and even though he heals himself every turn, he's not the ideal character for raids. Skipping Vision, onto Mystique. Mystique is an interesting character. Her ultimate can do a lot of damage. Her special is great in specific situations, and her basic allows her to copy things. She basically doesn't get bleed very often. She's part of an amazing team, but she is not the best for longevity. And talking about that amazing team, we have Magneto, another controller here. My personal favorite ultimate in the game. First thing you use, you blind the entire other team and clump them together. It's really cool, and I love the way it works. Unfortunately, it's a very, very, very long cooldown, and he's not very fast, which makes it not the best in raids, unfortunately, but it can have some use, and I will get into that in a moment. Now, here's where it gets a little interesting. When you consider them just generally in raids, Venom and Mystique are both ultimate Ys, which means you really shouldn't be using these characters. But the best character of them in general, in this situation, is the worst character to use in a raid. Magneto is just a special Y, because at this point he's too slow to actually provide value, and he's not really helping your team. So out of these characters, if you're just going to throw them in a random team, throw a different character into that team. It'll help you more in raids. When you count Synergy, Magneto takes a step up to join Mystique and Venom in an ultimate Y, but really their synergy doesn't really make them good for raids. However, all of these characters do one thing incredibly well in raids, and that is suicide nodes. Why is that? Magneto and Mystique are part of the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood are the best single team to take down hard nodes and hard waves of nodes, and that is why they're an ultimate yes. Definitely build them up. They're huge for that. Venom is part of Spider-Verse, which works very well for taking down nodes as well. It's almost like a Brotherhood light, especially Carnage. Carnage is amazing for that. But Venom himself, he becomes a special yes. So these 3 characters I just told you about, they're very usable in raids for one specific feature, and that's to take down a singular node. Okay, now I'm going to talk about 2 quick characters, and they go well together. First off, we have Vision. Vision is an amazing, amazing character. His basic is great, his special is great, his ultimate is great, his passive is great. He's annoying to go against and great to be on your team. He's amazing. Now, the other character, let's skip ahead. We have Scarlet Witch. She is one of my favorite Mystic controller. She's very usable. Her basic actually does some pretty decent damage. She has good debuffs on it. Her special adds some survivability by spreading out health, giving some deflect and some defense up. Her ultimate actually extends all debuffs on another team, so she can work pretty well in many nodes. Maybe multiple turns of bleed, multiple turns of blind, or you get a Storm and Scarlet Witch. You can actually have a full team stunned for 2 turns, which is pretty cool. So there's a lot of interesting things you can do with this. So if you just throw them in a random team, how does it really work? Like I said, Vision is one of the best characters in the game, so much to his kit. He, on his own, is a special yes. You have Vision, build him up, throw him on a team, it's going to go well. Scarlet Witch, on her own, she needs a little bit more synergy. She falls a little bit behind. She's a special, why not? She's still very usable because there's a lot you can really do with her, but you kind of need some synergy for that. However, her synergy doesn't move her up that much because there's just so many good synergies. And you really have to plan her out. She becomes an ultimate why not with synergy. Vision is a special yes because he works really well on a lot of teams, but not on the very best of teams. And he pulls heavy weight no matter what he's doing, but there's some characters that just pull more weight. Still highly recommend them both on their own and in synergy teams. Now, for a suicide node, Vision becomes ultimate yes because he really helps out on a tech team. He gives them defense up for 2 turns, which is amazing. And Scarlet Witch goes to become a basic yes. And I put there mostly for the interaction I talked about earlier with a full team stun for 2 turns with Storm. Even though I go the ultimate route, that special route is used by a lot of characters, and Scarlet Witch definitely makes it better. Okay, last 2 characters for this video. I hope you guys have been enjoying this, by the way. If you have been, make sure you hit that subscribe button as I get into these last couple of characters. First off, we have Loki. Loki is a really interesting character. He can have a lot of survivability or a little bit of survivability, depending on some RNG. That's because he has a chance to gain evade every time he uses his basic. However, it's not the best thing to use. His special can do a lot of damage as it gives defense down for 2 turns and mind controls 1 to 2 enemies to attack that person. It can take down some really big characters in one shot, and that's incredible. His ultimate is a summon, and it puts everybody else in stealth, so it's a nice little blend of Hand Sentry and Yondu. Maybe not that much that powerful, but it's that theory. And his summons spawn with evade, so it's really clever kit. He also fills some Mystic controllers with some speed bar at the beginning of their turn, so it's really interesting and a very unique kit, and it works pretty well in a lot of different ways. Now, the last controller we have is Star-Lord. Star-Lord in this game is incredible. His ultimate is huge damage, especially with Guardians. His special is very nice. It's a blind and it's not too many turns to recharge. Plus it gives ability energy to adjacent allies, which means it's very controllable. His basic is nice chain attack, better attacks in the game, but again, nice. His he on turn generates ability energy to adjacent allies and Guardian allies and gives a lot of bonus damage and speed to Guardians. That's hugely important, and you'll see why in just a moment. If you drop Loki on his own in a random team, I have him as a basic why not, because there's a lot you can do with him, but there's better characters to use in that sense. And Star-Lord, he is up as a special yes, because even on his own, he's a great character, and he can help so many different characters become better. But now when you count synergy, Star-Lord's all the way up to an ultimate yes, because he goes so well with Rocket and Thanos and all the Guardians, and they're really great in raids. And Loki, he's still just a basic why not, because there's not enough synergy for him at this point in the game. I wish there was, whereas Guardians would be fantastic, but there just isn't any yet. However, for suicide nodes, Star-Lord stays right where he is at the very top. Perfect ultimate yes. Great character to use in this situation. Loki actually does get a bit of a jump in this and that's an ultimate why not, and that's because he has some great single target damage. It can really help you take down some hard-hitting characters pretty quick. So this is how I view all the mystics, not the mystics, all the controllers in the game and how they perform in raids. If you did like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you want to talk about any of my ranks or you disagree with any of them, feel free to let me know down in the comments. Or you can actually talk to me about it on my Discord server. You can find the link to that down in the video description. Down there, you will also find a couple of other links, one to a Patreon and one to a Tippy. Those are for if you're interested in supporting the channel. I'd be very thankful if you did, but you're not required to. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, I'm here.